Hey, Dr. Reese. Before I go any further, I would just love to say thank you so much for the way that you've led this class and the way that you've taught us. You have modeled the outward disciplines and the inward disciplines of Christ so palpably and tangibly to us, and I'm just so grateful for you as an instructor and a professor. Thank you that your private and public life align, that you have integrity, and that you truly do love us as students. We really appreciate you. I'm so excited to share this discipline, so without further ado, I will begin my presentation now. Good morning, everyone. My name is Grayson Short, and I am ecstatic to share with you one of my personal favorite outward disciplines of Christ, silence and solitude. So without further ado, let's open up with two quotes. First, by Richard J. Foster, the author of Celebration of Discipline, one of the books we read for this course. He pens, "Loneliness is inner emptiness, but solitude is inner fulfillment." I want to make this distinction early on, and I want to make it very clear that loneliness does not equate to solitude. Being alone does not equate to being alone with the Father. This is a choice that we get to make, solitude is. And we can go find it in nature or where we're meditating, where we truly are alone. But I also want to touch on that we can find it even in the busyness and chaos of life. Our next quote comes from Psalms 23. "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake." I chose this verse because I truly believe that it represents the Father's heart towards us, especially in solitude. We'll talk more later about where we can find solitude and even places that Jesus found solitude. But this really illustrates to me that the Father's heart for us is to find places where we are still with him, because only from him can we find our refreshment. So what is solitude? Solitude is more a state of mind and heart than it is a place. I want to touch on little solitudes and how I have used those in my personal life, but it's the idea that even in the chaos of life, even when things are so loud around us, through our heart and mind, we can choose to be still, to find peace with God. Inward solitude has outward manifestations. What we do inside, when we slow down, when we really choose to spend time with God, that's going to manifest itself outwardly. It's going to help us develop the fruit of the Spirit, to find peace, to trust God with everything that we do because we're not trying to take anything into our own hands. This comes in the form of outward manifestations of what we're doing with Jesus in the secret place. Jesus practiced solitude often, even for as long as 40 days. Right before Jesus began his ministry, he was baptized by John the Baptist and then spent 40 days in the wilderness. Again, before he called the disciples, he retreated to a quiet place. Even the night before his crucifixion and his trial, he was found in the Garden of Gethsemane, in solitude, spending time with the Father alone. Jesus wants us to spend solitude with him. Solitude is not about loneliness, rather about listening to God in the silence. Richard Foster even articulates that solitude is not complete without silence. So true solitude comes when we are alone and away from people, when we can listen and intently hear the voice of the Father in our lives. Solitude and silence bring discipline to the tongue. This is an area that I struggle with personally, learning how I can discipline my tongue, keep myself in check. One of the ways I can do that Richard Foster suggests, is to take 24 hours off of speaking, saying no words for 24 hours, because we want to allow God to speak in and through us. And lastly, when we are still, we are brought to a posture of submission, trust, and intimacy with God. The biggest purpose of solitude is to bring us into a deeper relationship with God. Here's some of the ways that I've done that in my private life. In my personal life, I have identified little solitudes. This looks like waking up in the morning, and before I even leave my bed, I'm saying a quick prayer, and then I'm sitting and saying, "God, what do you have for me today?" I'm listening. This looks like on 280 with the crazy traffic that we experience. I'm going to choose to block out the horns and the yelling and everything around me. And I'm going to say, "Jesus, I want you today. Let me speak to you. I want to listen." I'm finding those little solitudes. I also want to spend time in a quiet place. Now, some people call this their quiet time. PC even jokes that his quiet time isn't quiet because he's yelling and pleading with the Lord and celebrating what he's doing. But for me, I need to find a quiet time in the morning where it's just me and God. Everything's still, and I'm just listening to him. I also love immersing myself in nature. You can see from these pictures that I love kayaking and hiking and exploring and getting far away from everybody else so that I can spend time with my Father in his glorious creation, to recenter myself on what he's doing. Solitude is a great way to go explore nature, especially when I go and I don't even speak unless I'm speaking to the Father. I love meditating in isolation, ruminating on his word and what he has for me. And it's so much more helpful for me to do that when nobody else is around, when I'm truly in solitude without any distractions, where it's just me and God. And lastly, I love to practice dominion over my tongue. This is one of the biggest areas of struggle for me, managing what I say and how I say it. But through solitude and through silence, I am able to tame the tongue. Thank you so much. This is all I have for you today. Solitude is an incredible discipline that we can all benefit from by adding it to our lives. Thank you for your time. That's it. 5 minutes on the dot. Thank you so much, Dr. Reese. I really appreciate you, and I hope you have an incredible rest of your day, of your weekend, or your life whenever you're watching this.